Hello and welcome to the Fandoms podcast with your host Joe and the man who forgot to read down the latest patch promotions, Tom. That'll be me. How we doing, Joe?
I'm good. How are you, Cyber Controller?
Cyber Controller. Yeah, I'm doing alright. Ah, dear. Jay, we do like your intros, but they do attack me a lot.
No, I love it. Carry on.
Anyway, today's podcast, if this is your first time listening to Fans of Edge, we'll be discussing everything about different fandoms like gaming, Star Wars, and everything else, basically. But specifically, what we're discussing today is we're going to go through, as usual, the latest game releases for November. I'm going to be going through CitizenCon with you all, for you people that like Star Citizen, as well as the GTA trailer announcement and the Tales of the Jedi Season 2 rumour as well. And if you're wondering about the title of today's podcast, if you're wondering what an RPD is, that's a rocket-propelled dirtbike. But more on that later.
My genius knows no bounds.
Yes, you can thank Joe for all that. He, for once, came up with something for the podcast.
Hey, I do the titles most weeks. It's my major contribution.
It's your job. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start off with the game releases for this month. As usual, some of these are probably already out, but you might not be aware of them, and they won't be every single one because that would take us the entire podcast to do. So we're not doing that. Anyway, I'm going to start. On the 2nd of November, we had the RoboCop Rogue City game, which I've heard good things about, actually.
Ooh.
And that's for both Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. Over on the 3rd of November, we have a Switch game for WarioWare Move It and EA Sports WRC, the latest rally game from Codemasters. So that's on PC,
Okay.
PS, and Xbox. Just getting some praise as well. On the 6th of November, if you're into this sort of stuff, Football Manager 2024 for PC was released. On the 7th of November, and we've got Robocraft 2, which launches in early access for PC. Now, actually, I played a little bit of Robocraft, I think. It was a long time ago, but you build all these... You basically build your own kind of ship or robotic craft thing, as it says in the name. Yeah. So...
Yeah, no, I've played a little bit of that. I played it at a Comic-Con.
Yeah. So I played it a long time ago, probably when I was at high school, I think, last. But it's cool that they're bringing out another one. That's cool. On the 10th of November, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 release for PC, Xbox, and PlayStation, which has had quite the talk of it's basically a $70 DLC. On the 14th of November, Hogwarts Legacy released on the Switch. I'm not sure if it was a full console release, but it's definitely been releasing now officially on the Switch. And on the 16th of November, you've got Assassin's Creed Nexus, and that's for VR. That's the VR version of Assassin's Creed. And finally, on the 17th of November, we've got Super Mario RPG on the Switch, and Warhammer Age of Sigmar Realms of Ruin. And our resident Warhammer expert should be able to tell us all about it, but I doubt it.
No, I can't. I can't tell you anything. Age of Sigmar has never been my thing. I never really got into... I want to get into the fantasy side, but I've never got into it. I'm more about the sci-fi, the grimdark, 40k.
See,
I
didn't look much into it when I made this list, but like, do you know what type of game is it? Is it an action game? Is it an RPG? Is it a strategy?
I have no idea.
Oh, brilliant! Our resident Warhammer expert has no clue.
All right, I can have a look. I can do some Google Foo. Google Foo, help me out here.
Talking of Warhammer, you're about to go into a bit of a rant about Space Marine 2.
Yeah,
in a second.
I've got something to get off my chest.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the Steam page for Realms of Ruin, and it's telling me nothing.
Okay. Well,
genre action strategy. There you go. It must be a strategy game.
Okay.
Right, that'll do me.
There we go.
Question answered. Right. Yeah,
Problem
I have a
solved.
rant.
Go on. Get off your chest.
I have a rant. Saber Interactive. Start listening to the podcast first of all. Secondly, where
What's
the hell is
extra
Space Marine 2? Right. Tom, I've sent you a link. Have a look at the link and tell me what it says on that Steam store page. Planned release date is
2023.
2023, right?
Yeah.
Now, it said, before it did say winter 2023, but let's be honest, we've only got a
Did it
month
say
to
winter
go.
on the scene page physically
Yeah.
before?
Yeah,
Oh.
it said winter 2023. That's where we got the date from, because it went on there first. Now, it said planned release date winter 2023. That's fine. I don't mind them changing it to 2023 because, let's be honest, we've only got a month left of the year. But that's also my point. We've only got a bloody month left of the year.
That confuses me. If they've changed it from winter 2023 to just 2023, that doesn't make any sense either, because we're basically in late autumn right now. We're about to go into winter come December.
That's what I mean. So obviously, I've been saying all year, I reckon it's going to... All year I've been saying, I reckon that's going to be a December release. Like, I'm calling it now. We still don't have a release date. I mean, they're still claiming it's going to be 2023. They've not said anything about, like, a delay, although there's people speculating that there might be a delay now. Which, to be honest, I'm thinking there's probably going to be at this rate. It'll probably end up being, like, January or February. But, yeah, it's still insisting 2023. So, like, when is it coming out? What is... Saber, give us an update. Give us a bloody update, because you've been tugging at my heartstrings all year. I want this game. I need this game. You don't understand, Saber. I've waited for so long. I need my boy Titus back. I need to go and stomp some Tyranids. Yeah, I wanted to have a little rant about it because Saber refuses to give us a date. And, I mean, I've just had a look. We've got basically, what, 5-6 weeks to go till the end of the year? Where is it? Where?
You just saying Saber Interactive just makes me laugh almost inside and smile, because they make a game like Space Marine, but they also make SnowRunner. They're two completely different games.
Oh, I know. Oh god, when was it? You know the new I can't think what they called it. The new Spin Tires, Mudrunner, SnowRunner, whatever they're calling it.
Yeah.
The new like spin-off that they've announced. When they announced that,
Expedition.
that's the one. Yeah, Expedition. When they announced that game, they also put out a thing to sign up for the closed beta.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they put it up for a few games. One of them being Space Marine 2. Now, obviously, immediately, as you can imagine, I went and signed up for that because I went, yes, I need some of that. Give me it now. I've still not heard anything, by the by. But, like, I just need the game, Tom. I need the game. I can't wait any longer. I've no idea where I was going with that point, but it's part of my rant now.
You want a new game to stream, that's what it is.
Yeah, I do. I'll tell you what, I'm going to have so much fun playing this game. I'm watching the trailer and I'm in love. I need to stop watching it. Yeah, Saber Interactive, pull your fingers out your backside. Give us a release date, because I want to know when I can start playing this game and I want to get hyped. If it's coming out at Christmas, that's fine. I will spend my soul to buy that game. But I need a release date. We need a release date. I'm speaking for the community here. We need a release date. Right. We'll draw a line under that. I've got it off my chest now.
Do you want to talk about Star Wars now, then?
Yeah, I've taken a deep breath. I'm ready. Alright. My next topic for the evening was Tales of the Jedi Season 2. There is a rumour. I don't know if we've been able to substantiate the rumour yet. I don't think there's been any confirmation, but there is a rumour going around that there will be, well, stories. I think it's going to be a couple of episodes about Bane and Skull. Our favourite fallen Jedi from the Ahsoka series, which I'm very excited for. Obviously, we lost Ray Stevenson, and did we talk about it in the last podcast? I think.
Yeah.
We talked about how we were sad that we're not going to get any more of that character and more of him as well.
Yeah.
So obviously that's quite sad, especially for us as Star Wars fans, but as fans of Rey as well. But we get this earlier look at the character as well, and obviously by doing it in animation, it doesn't have to be Rey. They can find someone to mimic his voice, I guess is the word.
I mean,
but yeah,
because it's to me, because it's animation, we've seen different actors doing the voice versus live action. For example, Ahsoka, for example, is a prime example.
Yeah.
So I don't see any problem with it. That's fine.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I mean, look at the changes between like Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
You know, we went from Hayden Christensen to Matt Lanter, is it?
Yeah.
God, I'm terrible with names.
I think so.
And I can't even think of the guy who played Obi-Wan now. Obviously, Ewan McGregor to what's his name? I can't think. I'm terrible with names.
The
guys,
thing is, I can picture what he looks like.
Yeah,
the voice actor.
I can think of his face, because his name escapes me.
Yeah, because I've seen so many interviews with him and him having fun with all the cast members, and obviously at what's the Star Wars con called? What's it called?
Celebration.
Yes, that's it. That thing. That thing that you went to.
Yeah.
I'm not jealous.
No, of course not. Even the voice of the clones.
Yeah.
We went from Tamura Morrison to, is it Dee Bradley? No.
Dee Bradley Baker.
Oh yeah, Dee Bradley Baker. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, these are all, they're noticeably different voices, but they still feel and capture the essence of the characters that they're playing.
Yeah.
I mean, especially Dee Bradley Baker. Jesus, he played how many clones?
All of them.
And he made everyone feel like an individual. They didn't feel like the same thing over and over. They all felt different. They were all unique.
He played 100 million and many more to come.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the point is that obviously having something slightly different, as long as it captures that same essence in the animation, it's a good thing. And I'm confident that we'll get a good younger Baylan Skull. I'm excited for it. I'm very excited for it. There was part of the rumour, I was just having a little look through it. Part of the rumour is that he will be voiced by Sean Bean.
Oh, really?
Which could be quite interesting. I can kind of see that working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, this is just a rumour. We don't have any kind of confirmation of these rumours at the moment. So obviously, take it with a massive pinch of salt. But I'm not going to lie, I'm excited. I'm excited at the prospect that we might get it, because obviously this has got to come from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
I'm quietly hopeful that we will actually get this, that we will get, a couple of episodes that focus on this character. I think it would be really cool. I think it would be really, really cool. What do you think? Sorry, I'm rambling.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, obviously we don't have much to go on, but my thing is, I think it would be good to see him, because obviously it's been referenced in Ahsoka. It'll be nice to see to expand on it, and whatever else that they're going to put in Tales of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Which
I mean,
to me, it's the Star Wars version of what Marvel's What If, which, by the way, new season has been announced for that. It's coming in December.
I was going to mention that.
To me, it's the similar thing, because it's that similar art style that they do. But obviously, it's a completely different unit and a kind of different thing. Tales of the Jedi is more of the extra additional stories that we don't see on screen, versus the What If is the alternate universe. What happens if we switch this around, kind of thing, which we've said we want for Star Wars, but I think we're all quite content with Tales of the Jedi anyway. But yeah, it's that similar sort of vibe, and I think it does. The art style does look very similar, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, actually. I mean, I think the art style is more or closer, sorry, to to the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
It's very much in that animation style, definitely. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's Tales of the Jedi is those short stories that are not really big arcs in themselves, but they fill gaps in the lore that people have maybe questioned for a while or wanted to know more about. Let's look at season 1 as an example.
Yeah.
Count Dooku's fall to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
you know, he fell between episode 1 and 2, but we never knew how that happened, and we didn't really understand why. And it was always kind of a mystery about his past. And yeah, sometimes those mysteries are good, and it's nice to have a little bit of ambiguity there. But I think it was really nice to finally see him as a Jedi, him training Qui-Gon, and then his fall to the dark side. It was beautifully done, and yeah, I want to see more of that. And actually, I do like your comparison to What If. I guess the same kind of concept, but rather than looking at filling gaps in stories and explaining those smaller storylines or plot points, as you say, Marvel decided, or What If, goes with more of the what if this decision changed? How does that change the whole world? It's a cool concept, and I like both. I'm really enjoyed season 1 of both of them. I'm excited about Tales of Jedi season 2. I'm going to quickly throw it in as well, because we're talking about things that we're excited for TV wise. Percy Jackson series. We've seen the latest trailer. I don't know if that's the final trailer. But we have...
It's the official trailer, and I think now, so...
Oh, okay, so...
I think the others were kind of teasers, and then that's the official one.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Looks really good.
But yeah, I mean, that's really exciting. I've been trying to watch all of the teasers and the photos that have come out, and... I mean, Rick Riordan is posting blog posts about it, so I've been trying to check his blog and see what he's saying about it. He seems excited, which... just makes me more excited for the series.
Despite me not reading the books since high school. I mean, I still have some of the books on my bookshelf behind me, but
oh yeah, mine are all behind me
because I've got the Olympian series as well. From the trailer, I recognised some things. I was like, wait a minute, I recognise that scene, but I haven't physically seen it. I've read it before.
Yeah.
But I can't believe it, because it was like, how long was high school for me now? Like, at least 6-7 years, I don't know. You know, when I've read it.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
No, I don't even want to start calculating how long it's been.
But no, you're absolutely right. I did a reread a few years ago, so I've certainly read it more recently, but the thing that I've picked up about watching the trailers and the teasers, and certainly the screenshots and what's the word, like concept images and stuff that I've seen, it totally matches what I was imagining in my mind. You know, I mean, we've kind of touched on this before, but Rick Riordan, the writer, for those of you not aware, has been involved in every step of the process. He's been involved in the casting choices, so we know the cast is going to match his vision. He's been involved in, set design, and I don't know if he's necessarily been directing, but he's been working with the directors to ensure that it matches what he envisioned writing the books. And again, you can see that in the trailers and the teaser clips and everything. It totally matches... certainly the world I built in my mind. I'm guessing it's the same for you. But yeah, I just thought I'd throw it in as a mention because it is a little over a month away. It's the 22nd it's coming out, which is it's going to be about a month from Friday. Friday when we're recording this, which will be, we're recording this on the 20th. There you go. Work it out from there. But yeah, I'm just really excited. I'm looking forward to it. I've always wanted a faithful adaptation and to get a series dedicated to each book. Yeah, I'm buzzing. I've
just realised, because I thought 22nd of December, that's a familiar date. Do you know why that is?
Why is that?
Because Marvel's What If starts on the 22nd.
I'm going to be busy that day.
They both start on the same day. And the trailer said we have a 2 episode premiere for Percy Jackson as well, so...
nobody talked to me on the 22nd of December. I'm turning my phone off.
What is the 22nd? The 22nd is a Friday.
Is it a bank holiday? I might have to book it off work. I don't know if I can work that day. I have to wait all day and then watch it. No, I can't do it. I've got a holiday left to take. Right, yeah, that's me done on TV. A few things that I'm excited for there. I think you are as well, aren't you, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
But you've got a lot to talk about today.
Yes, majority of this podcast is going to be talking about CitizenCon and everything that was announced, released, demoed at CitizenCon. For those that are wondering what CitizenCon is, it is their annual. It is Star Citizen's, Robert Space Industries, Cloud Imperium Games. It's the developer, obviously. Obviously, Chris Roberts, famous for the Wing Commander series. It's basically a convention like Star Wars Celebrations or EGX, but it's focused entirely over on Star Citizen. Now, Star Citizen has its fair share of scrutiny, you could say, and is quite controversial, you could say. But they are in what's called open development, which means during these kind of presentations, during CitizenCon, and these panels, they tend to explain the tech behind it. They give comparisons and they tell you exactly how they got there. They show they're working, if you will. So some of these is quite eye-opening. When you watch them, you're like, oh, I didn't realize how complex this was, and you start to actually appreciate not just what they're doing, but any developer anywhere of how they're producing stuff in games. And despite it being in development for 10 years now, you know, they've got the tech now, after 10 years developing Star Citizen, to the point where they're starting to bring in really interesting and just niche things into Star Citizen, which just looks so good. And when you think about that like that, you're thinking, yeah, I can see why they've taken the amount of time that they've taken to show us what basically they showed. So I am going to go through literally everything, because I just want to, first of all, I want to tell anyone that's listening, but I also want your reaction to everything, Joe.
Yeah, so I feel like I should preface this by saying I backed Star Citizen pretty early on. I bought a couple of their ship packages, and this was before they'd put anything out. This was still effectively just an idea. They were working away at it already. You know, it was past the Kickstarter, but there was nothing that we actually got for backing it at that stage. So I've been waiting for this for a long time, and I know we've talked about this, Tom, but for the audience's benefit, for a number of years now, because this has been in development for a number of years, I've been saying, do you know what? I can't stand it now. Like, I waited, I was patient, I backed it with, you know, a few ships, I put a bit of money into it, and I was really excited for it, because as a concept, it was great, but I've waited too long, and I joined the group of people out there who were calling it a scam. Because I started to feel like it was, you know, anything that when they eventually did put stuff out, it was very buggy and it didn't work very well. You know, even on a good computer, it melted it. Like, it was bad. And then I watched, someone linked the trailer for their Squadron Force 2, which is going to be their story campaign game mode.
I'm going to talk about that. Probably. That's the last thing I'm actually going to talk about. But yeah, I will expand on that. Yeah.
But I did watch that video, and it's got me excited for it again. It looks amazing. I'm sure you're going to cut in some clips in the edit, aren't you, Tom?
Yeah. But, And that's another point. I feel like me talking about it doesn't entirely do it justice. You know, I've linked stuff for Joe while I'm talking about it, just so he has an idea of what I'm actually talking about. But also, if you're on the YouTube version, you'll be seeing exactly what I'm talking about, because honestly, to just talk about it just doesn't do it justice at all. And going back to your point of there was hardly any content, I backed it in 2016, I think it was. With my Aurora from RSI, and I mean, I've changed ships since then. I've bought a couple more. I'm on it quite regularly now as well. So it's good seeing the change, because you used to spawn in Port Olisar. Everyone had the same spawn. You would go out, and there was only 3 or 4 missions. But now, Star Citizen, you can now do racing. There's mining. There's salvaging. bounty missions, mercenary missions, exploration, which isn't too much. If you want to explore, you can do. There's not set missions, but it's an option. You know, there's ground bounties, there's ship bounties, there's cargo hauling, there's doing delivery box missions, you know, and there's all the ships to accommodate that, and they're getting more and more into this. So let me start with their Star Engine. So Star Engine is their game engine, their inbuilt house engine. And they showed off this 20-minute element that looks incredible. And I do recommend, you know, having a watch. And even just, you know, some of these presentations, I'm not saying watch all of them, because some of them are 30 minutes long, some of them are over an hour long. But maybe, you know, have a look at maybe one panel that might pique your interest from what I'm talking about today, and you'll get what I'm saying about, you're really going to appreciate how they've developed stuff and how other game developers develop stuff as well, because they really go into some detail of how everything works. So the first thing that they said about the Star Engine was, I know this might not be the most exciting thing, but everybody loves a bit of nice graphics. And that's the cloud improvements. So they've improved clouds, and they've added two things that's not been possible before. I say possible, it's just not been a thing in Star Citizen, and that's ground fog and light shafts. And in the video, they have this lovely comparison. So they start with the cloud improvements, and then they add on the ground fog, and then they add on the light shafts. And it honestly looks incredible when the sun is shining through the clouds and it's just projecting the rays through. It looks great.
Yeah, I'm watching it at the moment. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's just that element of immersion. The little small details that you might not think, oh, you know, other developers might skip over. Yeah, Star Citizen, CIG, they're all over that. 100%. So that was quite cool to kind of see the comparison of all the ground fog and the light shafts and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And then they went on to fire simulation. Fire, not really a thing in Star Citizen. Of course, you can burn up in the atmosphere when you're breaking through. I mean, you can get smoke if you get too damaged and all that kind of stuff, but it doesn't actively spread. Nothing spreads. So they've first demoed fire simulation. There's an in-game fire extinguisher now, and there are numerous ways of how you can get rid of a fire on your ship. So you could vent an area of your ship. If you close all the doors, vent all the air out, that sucks, obviously realistically, that sucks all the oxygen out. And what does fire need? It needs oxygen. So that's one way. There's the fire extinguisher, or you just simply let it burn when it needs to burn in terms of its fuel. I'm going a bit too sciencey here, but it's realistic to what it is. But it looks great, and in the it's funny in the video demo that they showed, there's he saves a Pico, which is quite funny. Bit of humor in there. If you're wondering what Pico is, it's a plushie. It's an in-game plushie of a penguin. Okay. It's the kind of mascot. You can actually buy a physical one. They've made physical ones you can actually buy, actually. It's kind of the Star Citizen mascot. So,
don't lie, you're tempted to get one.
I mean, they're like 40 quid. They're not cheap. Yeah, so that was cool to see. So fire simulation potentially coming. I forgot to mention, this isn't coming in an update right now. This is just them showing off what their kind of engine can do, basically. Kind of a demo of, hey, this is what it can do and is capable of. So we will be getting this in due course, potentially in the next year or so. So that was quite nice to see. And in the development aspect, they actually went through how exactly they add all the kind of shaders and the textures and how it does it. Because originally, that from a developer point of view, the fire spreads in little kind of developer blocks, and then they add all the visual effects on top. So you can really see how they've developed it from just a concept into just like a demo to see how it does and tweak it, and then into its actual real thing.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It feels natural from the clip that you've linked. It feels like it's natural. It doesn't feel like and plop, plop. Like it feels alive, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's very cool.
And we're moving from fire to fire's worst nightmare, which is water.
Nightwear?
Nightwear. I can word, yes. So, for water, they've improved the reflections, the textures, the integrations with the environment with water-based physics. So, the water now reacts to bullets, footsteps, ships flying over causing ripples, wakes, waves. It's quite cool. Even just someone just stepping in it or running in it, it just reacts how you'd realistically think. It kind of does that kind of ripple when you put a footstep in it. And again, it's just one of these... Yeah.
I've just seen the wake, and my god, it looks amazing.
It does look good. It just... have a watch at it, because it's quite cool. The next thing that they showcased was your character reacting to things, which includes blood, sweat, and tears. Quite literally. So it simulates blood, sweat, and tears how you would expect. If you're injured, it will demonstrate blood coming from maybe your mouth or from your nose, and your character might sweat in warmer conditions. And if they're a bit emotional, they might even shed a tear or two. I can imagine... Well, it's more for... I have a feeling it's more for Squadron 42, which we haven't really touched on. I just want to just put it out there, because there's a lot of things that they're bringing from Squadron 42 into now Star Citizen, which is great, which is the reason why it has this more cinematic vibe to it. You're thinking, this is the amount of detail that you were expecting in a single-player game, but it's coming into a multiplayer game. So Squadron 42 obviously is its single-player counterpart, for those that are unaware. So your character can now do blood, sweat, and tears, which is pretty cool that they demonstrate that. And next, what they showcased was a new scope shader. It's more realistic, it kind of bends to the light, and it even works if another player looks from the side. So it distorts the way that you'd expect a scope to do, and it works not individually. I think usually in games it's individual to the player, client side almost, but if someone else is looking down your scope that's right next to you, yeah, it works the exact same way.
Oh wow, okay.
So it's more that really, really nice look for what it is, and it makes a real huge improvement and more up to date to the more other FPS titles as well. So that's looking good as well. So the next thing that they kind of mentioned was things to do with performance and settings. So some of these things you might have heard of, you might not have. So improvements to HDR. There's going to be some improvements for performance, so temporal upscaling modes. That might not be recognizable to anybody else. But if I said the words AMD FSR2 or NVIDIA DLSS2, you might be thinking, I recognize those names. They appear in some of my video game settings. And that's right. And what they are, the temporal upscaling modes. And CIG have made their own, in fact, which is called CIG TSR. So it basically reduces GPU cost of higher resolutions. It should basically, you should have better performance basically when you use that. For example, if you use NVIDIA DLSS, there are performance, there's a setting, there's a drop-down menu, we can select performance, quality, or kind of balanced sort of thing. So depending on your system, you can run more frames basically. As historically we know, Star Citizen isn't exactly great for running, so it's good that they're addressing performance issues for this. And object scattering is going to be 100% on the GPU at the moment. I think it's more on the CPU. So basically that's going to be less pop-ins. So if you're traveling really fast along in a planet, the environment might pop in and pop out. So it's going to do less of that. So it's going to be a much more smoother experience.
Oh, okay.
So there's that. Next, they wanted to touch on planet tech, how they make planets, and they are using machine learning or artificial intelligence for this to generate terrain as a base. So it's more realistic result with the climate in mind, the geology, the human impact on the landscape, all that kind of thing. They're still using artists before someone says, oh, AI, is that gonna... No, it's not going to affect anybody's job or work. They're just... What this planet tech does is it just bases it off the sort of planet that it is. For example, if it's a temperate planet that's a bit more like Earth-like, it will have those more realistic elements that you would expect, and vegetation that would grow next to things that you would expect, basically. So they're going to make it more realistic. So they've got an AI to generate it, and then the artist will go in, fine-tune it, and alter it where needed to make their planet. So they're going to be a little bit quicker when it comes to actually making systems and planets and stuff.
So the AI is effectively doing like a general overview.
Yeah.
And the artist goes in and goes, well, I'll tweak that a little bit, and that feels more natural, and yeah. Okay.
Because it's instead of them doing it 100% manually, because... Obviously,
that would take forever.
Yeah, because you can probably tell the AI to say, okay, these are the conditions for this sort of planet. This is what happens with this. You know, for example, you wouldn't have much water or any water on a desert planet at all, would you? You know, so it just makes it. I think it makes the artist's job easier and everything else, because based on data, this is how this planet should behave, and it will generate it. And they actually showed all the tech behind it. It was one of the presentations that they showed how this works, basically, which is, for those interested, cool to kind of have a look. They now went on to say there's going to be some Vulkan integration, another kind of graphics and performance term in your kind of settings and stuff that you've kind of probably heard of. So that's going to be coming to Star Citizen at some point, which is quite good. Because it's in a lot of games now. So they're basically updating all of their tech to what's current today, basically, at some point. Next, they mentioned about ray tracing global illumination, which is now going to be real-time global illumination. So they demoed the light reflections displayed on surfaces when it comes to ray tracing. So some of their kind of lighting... and this also goes into their new probe lighting, which is slightly separate to the ray tracing global illumination, but the new probe lighting and the surface light reflection, all that kind of stuff, is really done by one single probe of lighting. That's how they described it, and then it's lit everywhere in a room, for example. Now it's 25,000 probes everywhere, so now reflections will reflect off of the surfaces, so it's a little bit more realistic. So, you know, there's a few kind of demo elements of lighting which look quite good. It just improves the ultimate experience that what it is, you know, because they showed the inside of the Carrack hangar, I think, with the Pisces in, and they showed they did a demonstration of saying this is before and this is after, and you can really see the difference. Of it.
Yeah, I'm watching it now. It's a massive improvement. It feels a lot more natural.
Yeah, that was the word I was trying to actually get. Is it just looks natural now.
Yeah. Wow.
Which is very cool. And I think what they also did was this, particularly with the surface light reflection demonstration. So normally, at the moment, if you're flying and you tilt your sort of aircraft upside down and you're on a planet, and it's a red planet, let's say, that red should reflect that sort of lighting into your cockpit. But it doesn't at the moment. But now that's been a thing. That's now a thing, is this kind of surface light reflection, which is cool. So it's no matter where you are, your cockpit is basically more well lit. I mean, that was just the example that they showed for the surface light, and it just looks so much better. You're going to be lit so much more. and it just looks, again, more natural when you're moving around with things, which means, you know, if someone's above you, you might get a darker kind of shadow into you, or if you're definitely into some light, it's going to be a lot lighter. So
yeah,
it's looking quite good for the lighting department in their new Star Engine, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm just watching the videos that you've linked, and like, it's not just the lighting, but the darkness feels better
the shadows
too,
as well,
which obviously is part of it. Yeah, it's like you said about the hangar. It's under the current system or the old system.
Yeah,
you like. Again, I'm sure Tom's probably going to cut some of this in so you can see what I'm talking about, but you've got like a hangar door open, and you see the light come in, and it illuminates the back half of the ship. But then it changes to the new version, and you can suddenly see that there's like a red stripe down the side of the ship.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't see that in the darkness before. If anything, it looked grey.
Yeah.
Whereas now you can see it, which again, like I said before, it feels more natural. You can, you know, you can still see colour even if the light isn't directly on something, because the room is illuminated. Yeah. It's that kind of thing. It looks amazing.
Yeah. So, I mean, so far they're kind of altering stuff that already exist. But the next thing that they showed was something new for physics. And they introduced something called Starcloth, which is to do with dynamic collisions with the environment affecting clothing, which includes wind. And they kind of, first of all, they demoed this with the hospital gown. So if you die and you respawn in a hospital gown, which all Star Citizen players are more than familiar with. Clothing at the moment tends to clip. It doesn't really perform realistically, but Starcloth completely overhauls that and just simply makes it collide with your character and objects. They demonstrated this with a football. So they went into debug mode, they spawned a football, and they just put the football through the gown, just to kind of demonstrate how other objects and things would react to loose clothing, because that's what that gown is. It's more loose clothing. But this also applies with layered clothing. So if you're quite tightly wrapped with several layers of clothing, it will do the exact same thing. And you just look at it and think, wow, that looks incredible, because that's just going to make things look so much smoother and nicer for the player. And the next thing, which I think is incredible, and I don't think any other game comes close to it with this, Star Hair. Again, not something that you might necessarily think, oh, that's going to be exciting, which is realistic hair simulation. So they've made it so every strand has physics. And here's the thing. They said hair is probably the most difficult thing in game development for anybody to develop. But they've made it look really good. And the demonstration that they kind of had was, it was very early concept. So it's not in a world, it's in their kind of, in their software of them doing head movement and even brushing through your hair, and every single strand reacts how you would expect to realistically. And
does that mean I can have my unruly hair in the game that never does what I need it to bloody do?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Wonderful. I can hate it on my character as much as I hate it on myself. Lovely.
And we're going to be talking about character customization later, because they've overhauled that as well. So,
oh God, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the fact that every strand of hair on your head has physics is just even that very early concept just looks great. Looks amazing. So one of the couple last things to touch on for the Star Engine was Maelstrom. Maelstrom is their environment destruction tech.
You have my attention.
And this is for environments and ships. So pieces of ships can be basically blown off. But it's also, if you shoot a piece of environment, it will get destroyed. Now, this was actually demonstrated in the Squadron 42 trailer. Not trailer. Well, it was in that video that you saw. Because obviously they went into some dev interviews, but they did kind of, I think they demonstrated it a little bit as well. But yeah, environments destructible, as well as ships. It just, again, it's that realism of physics. it reminds me of DICE from doing their battlefields from Battlefield 3 and particularly Battlefield 4.
Oh, yeah.
You know, remember in Battlefield 4 at some point in the match where the Shanghai tower just comes crumbling down.
Yeah.
Whenever anyone demonstrates destruction tech, it just reminds me of what DICE do with Battlefield. But yeah, it's...
No, that's a good example though.
Yeah, it definitely looks good. You know, bullet holes will go into the concrete that's supposed to and all that kind of stuff. So that's quite good. They've also done some improvements to ship and FPS weapon audio, so everything has more of a... I think the only way I can describe it is oomph. But yeah, they've made them sound better, and the weapons have weight depending on what they are. So, you know, a sniper will really sound like a sniper.
Okay, that's cool.
Now, the last thing of Star Engine that they demonstrated was replication layer and server meshing. Now, Star Citizen players know exactly what this is. Other people may not, but it's something everyone has been excited for a very long time. And we had a working demo of this. So the replication layer demo, they demonstrated what's called a 30K. A 30K, again, Star Citizen players, you're very familiar. For those not, it's basically a server crash. When a server crashes, you have to go back to the main menu and respawn in. But this replication layer basically means that when one server goes down, another server takes over. You don't have to go back to the menu and respawn again. It's just that if you see somebody has disconnected, they will just freeze in place for you. You might be still roaming around completely fine, but that's when they put in another backup server up. And it basically restores the state back to before the crash happened. So they spawned a bunch of picos all over the floor. And how they described it is each server has a zone. And it has what's called authority over that zone. So when they basically shot at the picos for them to move around with their physics. And as they were shooting them around, obviously they're moving from each area to each area and around. As soon as the servers came back up, the picos' positions were restored before they started shooting them to move around, which, again, looks really cool. Obviously, it's more of a tech thing, but it's them developing the fact that this is going to be this huge MMO. Because their aim is to have everybody basically on the same server. Everyone. Every single player.
That's mad.
Bear in mind that there are 100 players maximum per server at the moment, which is pretty awesome anyway. So that's the replication area layer. Now there's the server meshing. So this is where the zones more come in. So there's a working demo. So basically, with this working demo, they demonstrated they assigned one server per zone of this very small area that they had. So one server would have authority on that zone. So if you walked from the blue zone to the purple zone, you would switch authority. From a player's perspective, nothing happens. But behind the scenes, you're actually moving from one server to another based on the zone. Meaning they can combine servers into one, basically. That's what the server meshing basically is. You're hopping server without having to know that you're hopping server. Hence the term server meshing. I don't know if you kind of got that. I mean, obviously you've been watching what they've been doing with the live stuff. It might be a little bit complex, but I've tried to explain it as much as possible. I don't fully understand it, but I understand it enough to explain it, basically.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it might be a little bit complicated for my little brain to understand, but I think I get the basic concept.
Yeah. I mean, this is the perfect example of them demonstrating, this is some tech from behind the scenes that you're probably not going to notice when this is fully working, but this is how it's working, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that's Star Engine. The next thing I wanted to talk about that they kind of unveiled was engineering gameplay. So engineering gameplay has been something that's... We have panels in ships for engineering, but it doesn't do anything. But they demonstrated for the first time what engineering gameplay was. So, resource networking tech. So this was to do with powering ships and outposts. And they demonstrated repairing and replacing parts with a repair tool. So if you have a part that's been partly damaged, you can repair it with this repair tool. It's basically similar to a multi-tool, but you can repair parts with it, which is really quite nice. And they demonstrated the Fury being replaced. And the Fury, you'll be interested to know this, Joe, is the TIE Fighter of Star Citizen, yes. And they kind of went over to the power distribution mechanics. So they explained that these will be more for the big ships that need numerous amounts of crew rather than the small ships. But you basically need to choose what gets powered with limited power resources to assign. But you can assign missing power units with batteries. They will deplete over time, but need to be charged for use. For example, you probably won't... You could have everything powered apart from your weapons, for example. Right? But you might have to take away, I don't know, power to your shields in order to go to your weapons. So it's kind of compromising. What do you need then and there? They're trying to encourage, what do you need at this moment of time? Are you in battle? Are you not in battle? Do you need your weapons? Do you not need your weapons? But also bear in mind, that power distribution, you will need to assign one to charge any battery you need for an extra unit that you want to power.
Okay.
And they demoed the engineering panel in the ship with nodes and what systems they need to be repaired in real time. And what you can do in the engineering panel now is you can control the doors opening and closing, and as well as components and the atmosphere. So you can close doors and vent it from one simple button from anywhere in the ship.
Basically, you can play Among Us.
You can essentially, yeah. So you could vent a space to control a fire, or if there was a trespasser on board, perfect. Goodbye oxygen.
Or if I just want to mess with you,
yeah.
Open it a lot.
One of the things that they kind of said was if they had all the doors closed and you didn't know where you were going, if you were trying to direct your crew to say, can you go and repair this component, you could open doors to basically create a path to that component and say, okay, yes, you might not know the layout of my ship, but I can open the doors as you're going along. Although you won't be
so cool.
You won't be able to see other players on this engineering panel, but you'll be able to see doors opening and closing. So you can actually basically spy on what's going on in your ship. Actually, you can see what doors are opening and closing in real time, which is quite cool as well. And with these components, go on.
Sorry, that just makes me think of Doctor Who. Is it the beast below with the Ood and the giant devil-looking creature?
Oh yeah.
And he's sitting there in the control room, opening the doors to move through, and putting atmosphere into the next section so they can carry on through. It just makes you think of that. I can sit there and guide them through. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So there's also fuses attached to all these electrical systems as well. So each component is attached to like an electrical node that has fuses. Fuses could blow or be destroyed or whatever. And they will have to be replaced manually. So someone will have to physically go to that place and put in a fuse. Or even repair it with the kind of repair tool as well. So a component could theoretically still be offline because the component might be been repaired, but the fuse attached to that component could have blown or need replacing. So there's damage to the electrical system as well, basically.
Right.
And it just demonstrates how big ships can't really be soloed in the future. Obviously, loads of people are soloing probably a lot of these big ships. But it also showed a live demo of them doing all this in action. Because they were being attacked and they were just had to kind of do everything So one person was on the engineering panel, just instructing them what they had to do, and the other couple of people were running around repairing the components and all that kind of stuff. It was quite cool demo to kind of have a look at, and yeah. And they've said a test version of this will be available in Arena Commander in the future, which is kind of their kind of arcade mode. You can go in and jump in and do some racing if you want to. You can do some PvP action, and test some ships in there as well if you don't want to go and load into the verse. But yeah, so that's going to be on a test version of Arena Commander in the future. So engineering is looking quite good. Now, it wouldn't be Star Citizen if I didn't talk about some ships. So
this is the bit I'm interested in.
Last year, apparently, they unveiled the Crusader A1 Spirit and the C1 Spirit, which is the cargo variant. Now, the A1 Spirit's a bomber, and so that has a payload. And it is out as of the current patch. So it's a medium-sized bomber with 1 to 3 crew. It looks really, really nice. So that's now out, available for people to buy or even have a go, because it is currently IAE, which I'll get to later on as well. So they even unveiled a new ship this year, a concept ship from RSI. It's called the Zeus Mark II. It's currently in white box. What that basically means is it's in early development, where they've put it literally in. It's white. Is what it is. It's their current development version is white. This is basically
has no texture.
Yes. It's basically a rough version of them to make sure everything's correct. And they explained in this to say, we've done the white box. We've actually had to widen the corridor from the original vision because they felt it was too narrow for players to navigate. So that's one of the things, as an example, that they do. They make sure you've got enough space and everything functions as that ship is supposed to. And actually, the Zeus Mark II is actually based on some lore from Star Citizen. So it's based on a historical ship that was the first test with a quantum travel in the lore of Star Citizen, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
So yeah, there's going to be 3 versions. There's going to be an Explorer version, there's going to be a Clipper version, which is the cargo version, and there's going to be a Bounty Hunter version with an EMP and a dampener. So a quantum dampener basically prevents you from quantum jumping. An EMP,
right?
I'm pretty sure you know what an EMP does. Shuts down your electrical systems. Yep. So that's in the Bounty Hunter version. So the MR, has a quantum dampener. EMP has an armory, an additional turret, and it has some bounty pods because it's basically meant to be for bounty hunting. And it has 16 SCU. SCU, by the way, is the cargo capacity. The ES version has a radar scanner turret and 32 SCU, and the Clipper, so the cargo version, has a tractor beam and 128 SCU. So it has a lot more cargo space, and that tractor beam is there to help you load and unload cargo.
Wow, that is quite a jump.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I may or may not have had a bit of a finger slippage on the Zeus Mark II.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Did you really?
So I don't own that ship. Although it's a concept ship, it's not actually in game. I own it. However, you might be thinking, well, isn't that a bit of a scam? No, because you actually get a loaner ship in its place until it releases. So it's a similar vehicle as it is. And the loaner vehicle that I get is the ship I talked about earlier, the Crusader C1 Spirit. Now, before IAE, when they did CitizenCon, the A1 Spirit was only available. So I actually had the bomber for a few days until IAE. IAE is the in-game expo where they demonstrate where it's free flight, anybody can fly at the moment, and each day has a dedicated manufacturer of ship, which gets demonstrated. Yesterday, which would have been the 19th of November, was Crusader, and they released the C1. So now I have the C1 because obviously I pledged the Clipper because cargo. I love me some cargo for some space trucking. So that's what I've done. So that's what I have at the moment. It's a really nice ship, is the C1. It's so nice. Looks really good. Another ship that they unveiled was a variant for the Drake Cutter. Drake Cutter is quite a recent ship. It's a starter ship. I think it looks really ugly, and I don't like it. But it's a scanner version. And although scanning isn't a feature right now, they kind of demonstrated how the scanner will work. So you've got a short scan and a long scan. So you can tell what ships are there, if they're only in quantum, what weapons they have, and they can go give waypoints, which is pretty cool. And that will be very useful for knowing things in advance when that feature comes in, but that's in very early development. We don't have that right now. So some people are saying, well, the scanner version, a little bit useless to own right now.
So it sounds like it's going to be a little bit of an advanced ship for a fleet or something.
Yeah, because there's loads of ships right now that have scanning stations, but they just don't do anything because the actual physical thing isn't there to do. So they also mentioned about the huge backlog they had of ships. They have a huge backlog, and that was because vehicle artists are leaving and joining the studio. Now they have loads. In fact, they've opened up a new studio dedicated to just doing vehicles. And what they've said is they want to focus on one manufacturer at a time now. So they're going to start with Robert Space Industries first and do all of those and all the big ships, and then move on to another manufacturer. Rather than jumping from each manufacturer, it means they can have the same or similar kind of art style because each manufacturer is different.
Okay.
For example, Drake is more industrial. You can see a lot of physical buttons, and it's you're seeing a lot of wires exposed, and it's more that kind of industrial, grungy sort of look. In comparison, Origin is luxury. You don't see any wires. It's all clean. You're basically walking into an Apple store in any of these ships. They're nice and clean. They're white, and they're sleek, and they just look complete luxury. So yeah. Two different art styles. They want to focus on those one at a time. What was really exciting was they're going to actually be bringing some of the Squadron 42 ships into it as soon as Squadron 42 drops. And that is the Idris, the capital ship, which will be released with Squadron 42 with all its variants, which is the P, the M, and the K. And the Idris it's a big ship. It's a big capital ship. It went on sale the other day, and it got sold out in 2 minutes, I think. Would you like to know how much the Idris is, Joe?
Oh god, I remember. This is the Corvette you used to be able to get?
This is the big capital ship. Yes.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I remember it being expensive, but go on.
3,000.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm choosing your words carefully.
Yeah, there are definitely some whales in Star Citizen community, to say the least. I mean, people have been waiting for it to go on sale probably for years or even months, so they're going to jump at the chance, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Still think I need to go whaling.
Yeah. Anyway, as for other ships, they've teased other ships with this kind of silhouette kind of thing, including the RSI Polaris, which is Robert Space Industries' kind of capital ship, which loads of people are excited for. So that's cool.
Okay.
So that's basically the ships. Now, something that I'm more interested in, which is the maps and UI, because design. So there's a new FPS HUD from Squadron 42 that they've moved over to Star Citizen. It's cleaned up, it's less intrusive, and has improved augmented reality markers for objectives and waypoints. Because the UI is quite clunky at the moment, it uses a lot of your screen, but now they've kind of really cleaned it up. And the FPS HUD now has scanning mechanics, similar to what I explained with ship scanning before, with UI indicators at the top of the screen. There's a short scan and there's a long scan. The long scan will kind of increase your kind of registry emissions, so you might be detectable a bit easier. So there'll be spike in emissions, basically. So the quick scan is more of a passive thing for line of sight, and the charge scan can scan things through objects and walls and stuff like that, which again is really cool. Yeah. And they've also showed off the new Mobilass So they've improved the displays for your personal status, your current ship, current objectives, the environment, notifications on one screen. And just looking at it, knowing what the current one looks like, it just looks so much nicer. It looks so much cleaner. It just looks great. And the UI team are doing a fantastic job for that, which is brilliant. So the next thing, which is quite exciting for maps. Now, I know you haven't been in Star Citizen too much, Joe, but would you agree that you tend to get lost in some of the areas that you may or may not remember?
Yeah, I gave up trying to navigate.
Yeah, well, this is exciting because the maps can now be downloadable via a terminal for that location you're at, which can be accessed via your mobiGlass. So you download it and you've got it on the go. And it will be not only accessible through your F2, which is your kind of map icon button to view the map, but it's also going to appear in the top left corner of your mobiGlass, which is cool. And it will actually update as you move into new areas. So if you were exploring a cave, for example, that you've never explored before, it will actually update that. And this runs in real time. And it shows statuses of doors, locations of players, and waypoints. And this can be used for data running and trading. So you could map something and think, okay, this is something interesting, or this is something rare, this is here, and you can sell that data to other people. So
I'm going to sell my map to other players.
Yeah, so, so you might have not explored somewhere, and you're like, well, I'm not an explorer, so I want to buy that because I want to see what's down here, or I've not been here before. Cool. That's another kind of element of content when it comes to players, and that more exploration.
Yeah, I was going to say, this plays into the exploration, because you said earlier there's not much for that at the moment.
No, there's not.
But this encourages players to go out and explore.
Yeah.
Go and map a load of areas that no one's ever been to before, and then sell it on so other people can go and enjoy it as well. Then, definitely.
Yeah, and then obviously for the more official places, I think like starports, you'll have these terminals where you go up to, you'll download it to your mobiGlass, and there's all that kind of stuff where it's all there for you. But talk about not getting lost. You won't be able to get any lost anymore once they implement that. It's not implemented yet. You can set waypoints, which will set a GPS waypoint to wherever you want. You can have a manual placement or an objective placement, and it will map out exactly where you need to go, when you need to turn, all that kind of stuff. So people that will be getting lost, you'll be getting lost no longer when that gets implemented, and it just looks so cool. And with that, talking about waypoints, you can place your own waypoints that can be named with a location, date, and coordinates. Again, this will be useful for you explorers to say, okay, this is what's here. So when you sell your maps, you'll have all these kind of waypoints on them to say, this is where this goes, or all that kind of stuff. So that's cool.
Just on that, I give it 2 days before someone uploads a map. You go and download it, and it's just filled with waypoints, and you can't get anywhere.
It's just filled with everything.
Yeah. You can't see anything because there's just a billion waypoints on it.
Yeah.
And there's one in the middle that just says,
What's, I think, the most exciting bit is this map is unified to the star map. So when usually we have the star map, obviously you can zoom in and all that kind of stuff at the moment. But what you can't do is you cannot zoom in all the way out to the system map. And that's exactly what you can do right now. And it's just so smooth, so incredible, and they've cleaned everything up. And the map will give you all the things that you need rather than everything at the same time. It's cleaner, it's easier to navigate. So if you're in a ship, you've got your ship layout, which is new. We don't have that right now. There's this huge ship called the Reclaimer. It's a big salvage ship, and I have a friend that when he went into there, when it was unveiled at one of these expos, in-game in Star Citizen, when it was first released, he got lost in there. And it took him 20 minutes on a search party to get him out, which was
oh my God,
quite funny. It's that big of a complex of a maze of a ship. But yeah, so something like this would be really cool. So as soon as you zoom out from your map, you can zoom all the way out to the system map, which is really cool. Which I believe that little noise that you just made is your reaction. No.
Yeah, I was just watching the video. That's quite cool, actually. I do like that.
Yeah.
I do like that. That's very cool.
Because at the moment, the map is just the system map. That's it, really.
Yeah.
So now we've got the ability to have this in caves and locations, you know, because at the moment it's just general knowledge. You just need to know where you're going.
Yeah.
So that's got me really excited for that change, which is going to be really, really cool, really good.
But it's a big improvement for the new player experience.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it's obviously just going to be a quality of life thing for more experienced players.
Yeah, because the star map is very clunky at the moment. When you try and click on a location, it doesn't always do it. When you click to do a waypoint, when you're trying to quantum travel somewhere, it doesn't always work, and then you get frustrated because you're like, I'm going to have to rotate the map, I'm going to have to go in, I'm going to have to go out, this and that. So yeah, this seems very clean, less clunky, and just a better user experience. So, the next panel, presentation, whatever you want to call it, was about character. Now, Pyro. Do I need to explain Pyro to you, Joe? Do you know what it is?
Absolutely not.
Pyro is the new star system that they've been working on, that everyone's been very excited for. And it is a lawless system. So, it has no jurisdiction of I think it's called the UEE, or whatever they're called. So it's riddled with pirates and dirty crime boys. So it's going to be more clunky, basically, in terms of it's not clunky, grungy and that kind of element worn through.
Yeah.
Because I think the law was you're getting all these solar flares because there's this exploded star or whatever. So there used to be lore in the system, but once they mined most of the planets, they vacated into the Stanton system, which is just the system that we have at the moment. So that's Pyro. So they demonstrated some Pyro clothing and armor, just to demonstrate, including a pouch system, which is pretty cool for inventories, because obviously at the moment our inventories are based on the armor that you have rather than anything else.
Oh, right.
So you can attach these pouch systems to your jacket or to your hip and all that kind of stuff, including jacket pockets and stuff as well, which is relatively new. And they went into gangs as well. Obviously, we know about the Nine Tails gang, which is the only gang right now. So there's now visual markers for the gangs. So the new gang called Rough and Ready, they have tattoos that represent the rank of the gang. And players can even earn these tattoos via the reputation system. And then you have another gang, the Dusters. They have their own style as well. Their kind of rank system are more to do with the clothing and armor that they wear. And again, this is something that players with the reputation level, if you want to go into the gang reputation, obviously you can choose if you want to be part of the gang and up their reputation level, or be part of a bounty hunters guild up their reputation, because that's what you have at the moment. In order to get better bounty missions at the moment, or whatever, you do more of the bounties, you gain reputation.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so they've more gone into gangs. They even gave us a stat of how many Nine Tails gang we've all killed collectively, and it's a lot. I can't remember the number. But I'm thinking, yeah, they kind of need to introduce more gangs, because I think we've basically eliminated Nine Tails at this point.
No, there's clearly loads of them.
In the millions, yeah. They mentioned also about armor going forward. So the player will have to consider what armor you use in the future instead of anything. So there'll be greater differences between the types of armor, like light, medium, or heavy, in terms of protection and mobility. And there's also going to be some new armor categories for combat, for specialist, for utility, and support. So you're going to have to kind of choose what your role is and choose carefully what you're doing. You know, if you know you're going into combat, you're going to need some combat armor. But if it's more support or utility, you're going to have to utilize that sort of armor. So they're more thinking about player choices here as well. And that will also determine what types of items are quickly available for suit slots. Now, the next point is something that you probably never expected me to say about a video game. They're introducing, or going to introduce, hygiene into Star Citizen, which will simulate not washing over a long period of time. So yes, gamers, you're going to have to actually go in the shower and wash yourself for once in your life, in-game. And poor hygiene can lead to disease, slowed health, and snarky comments from NPCs and everybody else. It will also decay fast if the player becomes dirty, wears dirty clothing and armor. So...
Is that the health that will decay?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I think so.
That's kind of cool, though.
So the showers that you might get in some of the ships, they're actually going to be used for something. And these visuals, they're displayed on the character. So obviously I mentioned about sweat earlier. So there's going to be sweat, there's going to be congealed sweat, blood, dried blood, and also dirt. And obviously that shower will clean all these effects, both visually and the hygiene level, which they're obviously going to be introduced. So earlier I mentioned about the character customizer, and they've completely overhauled it.
Okay.
At the moment, when you customize your character, you kind of randomize it, and you've got a set of number heads that you kind of blend together to create your character. Me and my friends, do you know what we do? We just spam it and be like, yeah, we're done. Next. But this looks so good. So you can do things like sculpt your facial features, and this just reminded me of The Sims. Because, just the sculpting of your face is very sim-like. So you can really... It's almost like rigging a character in animation by the look of it. You know, it looks good. I really think they've made a really huge effort with this new character customizer. It just looks good. Definitely a huge improvement on what we have right now. And you've also got more accurate and better skin tones instead of, again, kind of this blending kind of stuff. And selecting from presets, you've got this entire spectrum of different gradients and skin tones that are so much more precise. And it's just really nice to see this huge spectrum. It's almost like opening up Photoshop now and seeing the kind of color bar or the hex square in the corner. You can really accurately select it. I think you know what I mean, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm just watching the video, and my God, the amount of detail you can go into.
Yeah, and there's something that everyone's been asking for: facial hair. Right. That's it. Not applicable to me, but you can now add facial hair to your character, which is pretty cool, which people have been asking for a long time. All of this just goes back to the fact that I feel that everybody looks the same, and this will really differentiate your uniqueness as a character, so it's truly uniquely yours, which I really love. I really love that. And also the more control of your color hair. So there's dye variation and the gradient. So you know when some people dye their tips of their hair? Or might have a sort of gradient of their hair. Yeah, you can now do that. And honestly, I think that's the best feature of the new character customizer, just seeing that gradient just change. You know? So, you know, that you can do that on no matter the gender of your character. You can do that with male's hair. You could do that with a long female's hair if they wanted to dye the top bit a bit more a dark purple onto a light purple. That's one of the things that they demonstrated as well, which looks really nice. It just, you know, adds that more element to your character customizer. And the control, I don't think I've ever seen this dye gradient before ever in a video game, and it looks really cool. So FPS updates. They've improved the EVA. If you've ever tried to EVA in Star Citizen, you will know that usually you tend to faceplant when you get into a ship. No more. There is this turning around animation mid-air. You're able to grab stuff. You're able to basically crawl on your ship. During EVA, you can get into tighter spaces and impossible spaces that would be previously impossible spaces. So much more easier. So it just looks more fluid the way that it's been presented, which is, again, really, really cool about EVAing, which obviously is a bit of a quality of life thing. It's very clunky, I would say, still, getting in and out of ships. So it's good that, although it's absolutely hilarious seeing people faceplant as soon as they get into a ship from EVAing, we're all going to miss it, but it's going to be a good change, definitely. They've also, I mentioned about the kind of grappling mechanic as well. So there are handholds and other services that you can kind of grab as well. So that's quite good in terms of the kind of movement. They've also improved the prone movement, so no more clipping or restricted movement. You're able to smoothly go onto your back and onto your stomach quite easily if you're kind of prone. And another kind of movement thing that they've done is improved ladder animations, so you can lean partway through, partway up, and you can really kind of utilize that to your advantage to how you're approaching whatever situation you're doing. And as I know, testing a ship the other day from Free Fly from IAE, the ladders they're a bit clunky at the moment, and sometimes they just don't work properly as you would intend to. So it's good that they're kind of improving that as well again, that kind of quality of life. And they're introducing something exciting for FPS, sliding. Probably a standard now in FPS now.
Oh, God.
So they're now coming into being able to slide. So it's got snappy movement for FPS combat and would involve affecting your stamina if you used it. So it's not something you can probably spam or constantly do, but it's something that you can do if you need to get into cover quickly, if you're doing an FPS thing. And it just looks good, it looks smooth at the moment, which is cool to see. And that's when they moved on to radiation effects, which they're going to start to introduce. So it can mitigated by armor for a limited time, or by using objects in line of sight to that item. And that's demonstrating in their kind of demonstration. They've got huge kind of boxes that blocks the radiation item. You can go behind it, and it stops that radiation. Obviously, if you eliminated that radiation element, it would take a little bit of time for the radiation to deplete. But all in all, we're getting radiation where you would maybe expect radiation to be.
Okay.
And they are again improving the UI and that quality of life with the new radial menu for interacting with items. So it's more functional than what we have at the moment, and it just simply works, quite nicely to pick stuff up. Because sometimes it can be a little bit finicky. If there's two objects quite similarly close together, it can be a little bit finicky and clunky to say, yeah, I want to pick that up. What they've added is also animations for interacting with everything. I think this has been brought from Squadron 42. So things like buttons, touch panels, levers, valves, all that kind of stuff. At the moment, when you press touch panel to call an elevator, your character doesn't do anything. But now it does, and it just feels like they're bringing single player elements that you'd expect in single player into multiplayer, which wouldn't normally happen, and it just looks so good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've had the opportunity to work on it properly and make it work, which should make it easier to obviously port over to the multiplayer experience. But I really like that they've done that. I mean, for me, immersion is a big thing. Yeah. So it's really immersion breaking. Yeah. You walk up to a button and it just changes colour, and you're like, great. How did I press that?
Yeah.
With my mind. I like that they're including that. It's such a small thing, and most people probably won't care about it, but I do. Yeah. And I like that.
I like the really small elements, from what I was talking about, like the hair movement to now the button pressing. you know, and there's some more small immersion stuff which I think you're going to like as well. So they've also got a new looting UI. It's cleaner. It's less clunky. Again, I'm using that word again, but a lot of these things at the moment are clunky. But you don't realize they're clunky until you watch these demos and you're like, yeah, it just looks so much better. You can see what attachments on other items are and connected to each other. And because it's just a little bit annoying to take someone's inventory right now. And it's not quick, you know, if you're trying to loot somebody quickly, if you've run out of ammo and you're in a firefight and you're trying to loot somebody quickly for ammo or a new gun or something, there's always that huge risk. With this, I feel it's a lot more smoother and a lot better for you to grab something quickly in those more intense situations, which is also good. Now, they've also improved about takedowns. So takedowns will now have levels. So you level up to have better success and be quicker. And they also have dynamic environment takedowns as well. So your character will struggle at the start, but as your character gets better and better at this thing, they'll get silenter, they'll get quicker, and all that kind of stuff. And what I mean by dynamic environment, one of the things that they demonstrated was a character was leaning on a railing. And the takedown was dynamic to that because you slammed his head against the railing to knock him out. Obviously, ow, but I think it's cool that they're introducing those dynamic elements. Instead of just trying to maybe take a chokehold or with a knife or whatever takedown it is, it's using the environment that you would expect to. You know, if you're, you know, and if you're a low, what they explained is if you're a low level and are quite slow and clunky when it comes to taking them down and might have a higher success rate to fail the takedown, dynamics will actually help you better because you've got more of a chance then, which is, again, cool. And there's a new restraint mechanic which ties into the taking down of somebody, so useful for knocked out enemies, because what they kind of explained was knocked out enemies might become conscious again and alert everybody, and if you're trying to be stealthy, yeah, it's not going to happen. And it's also going to be used for bounties. At the moment, bounties, you tend to just kill people, but they want to introduce these kind of more of the only thing I can think of is Mandalorian, okay, carbon freezing them, so that there will be these bounty pods. There are some ships that have bounty pods in them, like the new. You remember I mentioned about the Zeus MR Mark II? Yeah. So that was the bounty one. That has bounty pods in them, so you could capture people. So this is part of the new capturing people for bounties. So it's going to be used for the bounty mechanic as well as just knocking out enemies and preventing them alerting anybody else, basically. They next showcase weapon wear and tear, so things like dirt, negative effects, things like the happen will have jamming. I thought that was a quite cool animation, that a jam can happen, and it showed you, you know, fixing the jam. So it also means you've got to clean your weapon, you know. If it gets used too much, it will probably jam. They've also done recoil improvements, so again, I talked about the oomph from the sound. They've incorporated that with the recoil now, so the recoil is a bit more realistic to what the gun is. You know, if it's got more kick, you'll be able to feel that it's got more kick. And they're even introducing a new weapon, a Volt energy weapon, that kind of spews up and is more heat-based rather than ammo-based. So it will get to a point where it will overheat, and that's where you won't be able to shoot. And they've also done other stuff with weapons, so there's a snappy ADS. The time to kill has actually been increased for players because they've noticed that's been a small complaint. The iron sights have been remodeled, so they're easy to use. So they're now higher up on the gun now, so they're a little bit easier to use than, you know, just thinking, oh yeah, iron sights are completely rubbish, I have to have a sight on this. And here's a new mechanic, which is pretty cool that they demonstrated. Reloading from a backpack. It's slower, but at the moment, in order to, you can place ammo on yourself, on your armor, but what you have to go is you've got to go into your backpack, you've got to take it out, you've got to put it on your person, and when you're in a firefight, that's just too long. You're just going to die, aren't you? So there's a backpack reloading, which is cool, and it will show via the UI, which again, very nice.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, they talked about NPCs and AI traits, so they will have mixed traits. So I'm just going to be giving you a few examples of what some of these traits are. There are 21 of these traits in total, and they can be combined. So there's things like blind fire, trigger discipline, being aggressive, being reckless, or being a medic. So the AI will have kind of, I think, 2 or 3 of these traits combined together, and they will just do that. So they're a little bit more unpredictable, some of them. Some of them might be a bit more aggressive than others. You know, all dependent on those traits. And I think that's going to make the AI a bit more dynamic to fight, because they're quite linear and you kind of expect what they do, and sometimes they glitch out anyway. So I think that's a really good change for NPCs, particularly those people that don't want to deal with PvP.
What? With up to 21 traits, and what did you say, like up to 3?
I can't remember. I think even if it's 2 out of those 21,
that's still a lot of combinations.
Yeah, it's a lot of combinations, and so it's that unpredictability as well. And also,
wow, that's cool.
Now, AI will need to resupply, because at the moment they're infinite ammo, but now they will need to. However, I do need to point out that one of the 21 traits that I haven't mentioned is infinite ammo. So there might be a trait of on occasion you might get an infinite ammo NPC.
Okay.
But basically they will loot dead bodies, they'll loot their teammates, and they'll even try to, as the medic trait will do, they'll try and get their fallen teammates back up as well. So you've got to watch out for that, because at the moment, once they're dead. You don't think about them. But yeah, that's something else for ground combat, which is really cool and really good. Flying in Star Citizen is what you tend to do 90% of the time. So let's talk about flight combat in another presentation that they mentioned, which has a more immersive experience, and you'll like this. Every button now has an animation when you press them.
Ooh, I'm happy.
It's that little thing again, where they've just increased that. I think just that Squadron 42 single player element that we've seen, and they're bringing it into the live game for the MMO, which is cool. And this includes a relaxed state with a lowered hand post. So at the moment, when you get into a ship, you will automatically grab the stick. But you will then go into a relaxed pose, and then when you fire it up, you'll do all the button animations, and then you'll place your hands on the stick. And again, just one of those immersion things. It's really cool. It's really good. And they've also decluttered and supplied the UI. It's a new look, and again, I'm repeating myself, but it's been brought from Squadron 42. It just looks really nice. They've also improved the MFDs, which is the multifunction displays, the displays that you have in front of you. It's got a cleaner UI, easy to navigate with improved functions, including being able to cast your helmet if your helmet allows it. So obviously that means equipping the right sort of helmet, but some ships just don't have enough screens, and some screens you just want to be visible to you at all times, and sometimes you can't because of the limited amount of screens you have. That's the problem I actually have in the RSI Scorpius. I have 2 screens in the Scorpius, but I wish I had more because I'm a fighter. It's a heavy fighter as the Scorpius. As you know, it's the X-Wing of Star Citizen. And I wish I had availability for more things for viewing, because I wish I could have a look at my power distribution, as well as potentially the ship status and who I'm targeting, so they can now be cast to your helmet, which just is really cool. And you can customize what you want to see, and all these can now be bound to key bindings. So when you fire up that, basically what I got from that was, when you fire up your ship, it will be unique to your ship. So if you launch it and fire it all up, all the MFDs and stuff that you set previously should be the same. And I think that's really cool to see. Really cool to see. Now, they've also improved G-force to better communicate the behavior of the ship with your speed, so you might sway left or right a little bit better if you're going left and right, so there's a bit more head sway just to convey, because obviously it's a bit like sim racing is G-force, because it's, well, you get G-force when you're racing, but also you'll get G-force when you're flying, and obviously you're either playing on a mouse and keyboard or on a HOTAS or dual stick without that.
Yep.
So they're trying to really convey it through movement, which is really quite cool to have. And they are introducing what's called master modes, and so there's going to be SCM and nav mode. In SCM, you've got restricted speed, full access to weapons and shields, but you cannot go into quantum. Nav mode, however, is for traveling and going into quantum, but you've got no shields or weapons. So you can't just jump away from a fight anymore, and it takes a little bit of time to transition between these modes. So you've got to pick your moments, whether you want to jump into quantum or you don't. And if you're being chased, remember, you're going to have no shields. So you've got to make sure that gap is enough.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So do your shields stay up, but obviously if they get shot, they're just not going to come back?
Shields will regen. It's just that if you're in nav mode, you have no shields at all. They will go down, the same with your weapons, so you're basically stranded.
Oh, so when you switch into nav mode, it turns them off?
Yes, but when you switch back to SCM, it will switch them back on again.
Yeah, of course.
They've also going to be recalibrating thrusters for better maneuverability and more acceleration to the front. They explain this with a kind of graph, a kind of circle round the ship. So basically, you should be able to move forwards at a higher speed than you are reverse, which I don't think is a thing at the moment. So it's kind of that pulling circle, semicircle around your ship of you'll go faster forward than you do reverse. Makes sense, obviously, but they just want to make sure people aren't basically just reversing at 1,000,000 miles per hour. So the quantum experience. Now, I didn't know this as player, but it's not yet physicalized. Currently, you get teleported at intervals at each frame along a spline. But the new system is fully physicalized. So you need to keep your ship locked in position until you have reached cruise speed, otherwise you'll be thrown out of quantum. They've actually demonstrated a failed quantum if you just let go. At the moment, that's what you do. You just press a button, and then you can go and do whatever you're doing. This requires you to have some skill to counteract the G-forces going up to cruise speed for quantum. Obviously, quantum is quite fast. But then we've got a successful demonstration of quantum in another demo that they did. And so it will lock in, and you'll get your kind of bubble of quantum. And there's obviously what you're seeing, Joe, is also the new quantum effects at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
So that's all new as well. So as long as you're locked in, you can go. And then you can let your hands off the controls. So it just takes a little bit more skill to go into quantum now. But again, I think it's a welcome change for definite. And the last thing that they mentioned about quantum is quantum boosting. So now you can quantum boost in any direction you want. This isn't a full quantum jump. This is a boost. So you're not in quantum traveling between planet to planet. You might have come out of quantum and you're quantum boosting for a short range. If you're going into a location of the planet, it might be on the other side of the planet. That's what you maybe use quantum boosting for. It can lock on to a specific marker. It doesn't need a marker now. You can do it in whatever direction you want, but you'll have to be able to counter those G-forces constantly. Unlike the quantum jump, where it's just until you get the quantum speed and into the bubble, you have to constantly be adjusting yourself when you're boosting, though.
Okay, so it's a much more manual experience.
It's a manual thing, but obviously it's a short distance, so you're not doing it for that long.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now they mentioned about ship AI, which will now go along behavioral types. So they've got different types called Interception, Jouster, Strafer, Chaser, and Disengage. And they showed this with this quite nice graph on how the AI would perform. So what they've done is they've used PvP encounters to make them more challenging and engaging. And in fact, they were too good at one point. So they've had to... In fact, they were impossible to do. They got them so they were completely impossible to do. So they're programmed to make mistakes as well. And they're a little bit easier to make them when they did one of the earlier tests, which is again nice to have this variation again with the person AI NPCs. It's reflected in that kind of what types they'll do. So it's a bit more challenging for the player. As for ship weapons, they'll be rebalanced with uncapped range. At the moment they have a bit of a range, but weapon spread will be encouraged for closer combat engagements. And they've also changed the pips. The pips, by the way, are just your little icons of where to shoot, because you get a little kind of where to shoot based on their trajectory. So they're improved so you can actually hit your target better. They gave an example. If you're in an Ares... you have 2 wing shots, guns. Now, what the pip would do is it would be quite inaccurate. So it isn't taking into account that you have wing guns. And when you shoot, you'll miss. Or majoritively miss.
Okay.
So they're kind of improving that. As well as a new mode called Precision Targeting Mode, which will zoom in onto a target and you basically just paint segments for the gimbals to hit, and it will do them all automatically.
Oh, I'm watching that. I like that because now you can target.
You can target specific. I think they're targeting a javelin or an Idris, and they're targeting the turrets themselves, which is pretty cool.
I like that.
So you can hit specific things to take them out, because obviously a ship that size is going to be quite big to take out.
Yeah, so, it's going to be quite beefy, so you want to pick bits off of it. Oh, so I like it.
They then moved on to flight mechanics of control surfaces, and they're just so much more realistic now on how an actual plane would behave in atmosphere. So what they did was they shut off the thrusters, and the ship could still be controlled. And it was all about to do with airflow. So they did a purposeful stall, and they moved it, and the airflow would help. So you'd have to properly position it so it would being able to use the air to move your ship. Obviously, the RCS would actually help you.
Oh, so you basically turn it into a glide.
Yeah, so you can now glide. Yeah, basically. Because they said the thrusters they're not designed for atmosphere, and they will overheat, and they will react just like a plane. So you will need to pitch and roll to turn, just like a jet would have to, or any airplane.
Oh, that's cool.
And fins will help you as well. So you can also pitch and roll for the air to catch you as well, in order to start accelerating again, because it's all about the airflow of where the air is catching you. So that was really cool to kind of have a look at and see. The next sort of final segments that they kind of mentioned was outposts, rep, and pyro stations. So at the moment, they use a small library of outposts. So they've improved these, they've made the library bigger. So these outposts that you come across don't feel like a copy and paste, and they feel a bit more purposeful when they're building them. So one of the clips that I've put on is, you know, their kind of dev kind of view of all the kind of variations.
Different types of buildings and stuff.
And with that, they showed off the new Delarit settlements as well, which you'll find around. I think that there's some for Pyro and some for Stanton. So that kind of demonstrates all of that. And they also demoed the rest stop stations for Pyro. It's a completely different vibe, obviously, in Pyro. They're more run down, they're in a bad state, and just simply they have some factions that will kind of run them, and so rep might play into this as well. So, in terms of accessing different areas. But yeah, it has a completely kind of different vibe for Pyro, which I suppose is nice, and it fits that Pyro system.
I was going to say, I guess that matches the overall theme for them.
So Pyro has 6 planets at the moment, with 26 of these kind of stations as well. Obviously, there's more internal space to explore, and as I said, you can unlock areas via rep levels from the owning faction. And that can restrict how you can access those areas. So you might have to sneak around to get in if you don't have the rep level. Or you could try and talk your way in. Or you can go guns blazing. Whichever you like.
Go full balls to the wall, blasting as you walk in.
Absolutely. The next thing they mentioned was distribution centers. So these are going to be the largest locations to Star Citizen apart from the current spaceports. And they will be owned by different factions, which will affect what they have. For example, Grey Cat, that's a small faction. It's going to have not as much level of security, and it's going to have those different types of items. The UEE, for example, they're a huge, more military faction. So they will have large levels of security and different types of items and stuff that they'll have. And these centers can have, you can get missions from. So all these missions can range from hacking, stealing, search and destroy, VIP, eliminate missions, cargo hauling, resource gathering, mining, or even maintenance. And these will be expanded underground, but that's not currently in development, it's the underground element. And they will also have VIP suites and mission givers for things like box deliveries and stuff, and that's where you'll go to actually get your rep and start your kind of journey. And they've even introduced a new mission, raids. So these big distribution centers you can raid. So players would attack these centers with a small group to retrieve valuables and would need to secure these on a grav car to bring them back to a ship, which just adds to that. Again, there's that PvP and PvE element as well. So that's cool to bring to that. And one of the things that has really got me exciting is about hauling. And they talked about more in depth about hauling. So it will involve a reputation level with different hauling companies, which will unlock more contracts and more cargo types, which we don't really have at the moment, which is hazardous, perishable, fragile, high priority. It's almost implementing what we would expect in Eurotruck into Star Citizen. With our different, when we level up, obviously we might assign it to more the hazardous skill level, won't we?
Yeah.
So there's all that kind of element in there. So that looks really good for hauling. And with
I was going to say, is this an option for Tuesday night trucking?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we can do that at the moment anyway, because hauling is a thing. But yeah. In-game rewards, there's going to be in-game rewards only as well. And perks like branded tools and ship skins, clothing, collectibles, and more items in the shops, as well as discounts on items as you're doing these, as your reputation increases with whatever kind of thing, which is cool. Now,
I like rewards.
This next thing's exciting. Oh, the cargo lift introduction. Now, this is going to be part of the persistent hangars. Do you remember the persistent hangar, Joe?
Yeah, that's what I could unlock for buying ships, right?
Yes. So they removed it because it had loads of issues, but they are planning to planning to bring it back. So these are going to be private hangars, obviously, and not only is the cargo lift used for physically loading your cargo and ground vehicles, this is where all the tractor beams come in really helpful on these ships, as well as the grav carts can also be used for quicker loading. But they can also have your ground vehicles. At the moment, you're having to go to like a mining facility on a moon to load it on those pads to put it on your ship. This way, you can do it in the hangar, and you can have your party of people in your hangar helping you out, and it looks really, really cool. So you can store those physical items in your hangar, and there's no ET on this. They're saying in the next 12 months as a rough estimate. But this is something that a lot of players, including myself, really want. But this will introduce the physical loading of cargo. At the moment, you press a button and it's suddenly in your ship. This means you'll physically have to use the multi-tool for the tractor beam or tractor beam on ships or the grav cart to use that to physically load your cargo. So if you've got
I've just seen the cargo trolley. I love it. I want one.
Yeah, it's just really cool. And just the ability just to have your ground vehicles being loaded in is really cool and just really nice. So before I talk about Squadron 42, I want to talk about a really new early concept. Base building. Brand new. First time it's been announced for Star Citizen. So, there are multiple functions for this. There's selling items, extracting resources, and it can be a home for you, yourself, or your organization. And it will require blueprints obtained by a rep system and rare shopkeepers, and the construction will require resources. And ships can be utilized for building, like the concept ship Rob Space Industries Galaxy for large bases, and the Pioneer will do all three categories. But what are those three categories? So we've got high security, where you've got to have our land claim, has full protection, but it has taxes and fees, high costs, but low financial return. Low security has a land claim, partial protection, has some taxes and fees, medium costs with medium financial return, and then no security. So there's no land claim, there's no security at all, there's no cost, but there's high financial return. So it's just kind of a case, do you want to risk it? Do you not want to risk it? Do you want a huge financial return? It depends what you're using it for, really.
Okay.
And there'll also be crafting and fabricating system which will feature the furniture and specialized modules. And you'll be able to produce anything from ship components to even a ship itself. Which I was quite shocked to know about that. It was that's really cool to know, the fact that you can almost build ships. That's going to be way far in the future, though. I'm guessing way far in the future. There's also more base modules, so there'll be refineries, hydroponics, pharmaceutical labs, power plants, and you can place things like shields, anti-air as well.
Okay.
It's not in production, it's not in development right now, it's just a concept, and they will start developing this in Q1 2024. Now, Squadron 42. The single player experience has the trailer kind of been released for it? Yes. The Hold the Line cinematic had a really nice cinematic. That's the video that you kind of mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And has basically demoed everything that we've kind of discussed, because it went to it transitioned to the Manchester office. I don't know if you were fooled by this, but I thought they'd made the Manchester office in game for a second when they transitioned the video over. I was like, oh wait, no, this is real life. This isn't actually in the game. I thought, wow, they've really outdone themselves there.
No, I realised that was a drone or a helicopter shot.
Yeah. But yeah, they had a bit of an interview with the devs and showed us some more kind of stuff, which was really cool. But here's the big announcement. It's feature complete. What?
Ooh.
So that means in the next 12 months, we're potentially getting Squadron 42, which I think is great, because it means that they get to show off to the haters more than anybody else that they can make a game, but they're also proving this is what we're capable of. This is exactly what we're capable of. Not to mention, it's huge AAA cast. Mark Hamill, Gillian Anderson, Mark Strong. Woof. What a cast.
Yeah, that was the thing that stood out to me. I mean, I knew that Mark Hamill was involved. I saw that when they announced that, God, quite a few years ago now. But to see so many other big names involved in this project, that's crazy. So, I mean, Mark Hamill, I know he does a lot of voiceover stuff. He enjoys being involved in many projects, and you can see that obviously from the work that he's done over the years.
Yeah.
But some of the other names like Mark Strong, Gillian Anderson,
Yeah.
I was not expecting to see people like that in there. That was a big shock to me, but that makes me really happy because, I mean, the projects they're involved in, they run with it.
Yeah.
That they are in a class of their own. So to have them involved in this, that's going to be a great experience. I hope they're not just like one-line characters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I hope there's someone that keeps coming up throughout the story. I hope we get to enjoy lots of their performance. That's going to be a real selling point for me, I think.
I mean, we kind of get to see their characters in action a little bit, but the players. I know, so do I. The main premise of you is joining the Navy and being a fighter. That's why it's called Squadron 42.
Yeah.
So you're definitely going to have those interactions with the likes of Mark Hamill's character and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, I've known for quite a long time now that Mark Hamill has been involved, but I didn't know that, again, the other actors were involved. So they've kept that hush-hush until now, which is really good to see. But overall, it just looks really polished completely. And it's just like, wow, I want to play this now.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
Tom, you've talked for a while.
I have talked for a while and for a very long time. I think you want to talk about a particular.
I do.
A particular announcement, biggest announcement that broke the internet, I would reckon.
So I feel like we should let your voice rest for a moment.
Yes, please.
We said at the start that we was going to explain the RPD comment, the rocket-propelled dirt bike. Actually, I say some of you. I imagine all of you are aware because this is probably one of the biggest announcements in gaming history. And explain that a little bit more in a second. There is a trailer coming for GTA. We assume it's going to be GTA 6. It's heavily implied that it's going to be GTA 6. Grand Theft Auto. Do we know when Grand Theft Auto 5 was released? Let's do some Google.
A long time ago.
17th of September 2013. So
was that the original release? Yeah.
Yeah. That's over 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we're finally talking about what has sparked this is there was a tweet put out by Rockstar saying that a trailer was coming for, was it
December?
What did they say? Something like the next step in GTA or something like that.
They phrased it of the next Grand Theft Auto. They didn't actually confirm it's GTA 6.
That's true. It's not actually
confirmed.
We don't
know where they're going with that yet.
Heavily implied is what I'm going with. Mm-hmm. Heavily implied. But yeah, as Tom said, it's coming in December. I don't think we have an exact date. Did they say the start of December, from what I remember?
I don't think they even said start. They just said in December.
Oh, okay. Well, we might be waiting until the end then.
So I have two theories for this.
Go on.
There is a big gaming event that happens on the 7th of December. It's the Game Awards. The Game Awards ceremony and presentation happens on the 7th of December.
That would be the perfect opportunity.
What good time to have it on the 7th of December. Lots of people are saying this, but there's another theory. See, the last time they celebrated, because they said it would be around the time of the 20th anniversary of Rockstar Games. Although there's no, in quotation marks, official date of it, because it was just the month of December. The last time they celebrated it was, if I remember correctly, was like the 18th of the 20th of December, where they put it on social media saying, hey, we're celebrating, and this was all the way back in 2018. Yeah. So if it doesn't appear at the Game Awards, I reckon it'll be that week of the 18th, 20th of December, where they'll unveil it if they don't do Game Awards.
Yeah, just on a quick Google, Rockstar Games celebrates its 25th anniversary on December 10th, 2023.
Oh yeah, 25th. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's got to be around about that weekend, surely. You're right. It's either going to be on the 7th at the Game Awards, which would make perfect sense.
Yeah.
It's a big event, perfect place for them to show it off and get everyone hyped up, because hopefully a lot of people will be watching.
Because we know Game Awards is famous for having all new game announcements being released.
But that's the thing, you've got the attention from people across the gaming industry, players, news outlets, everyone is involved. But also, I can see what you're saying about the 10th, though. That would be a nice way for them to mark their anniversary, throw out the announcement then, and the proper announcement, I mean, with a trailer.
And break the internet for the second time.
Yeah. To explain my comment earlier, I kind of lost the point there a little bit. I said about it being probably one of the biggest announcements in gaming history. The reason for that is it's the most liked tweet, I think, in all of gaming that has ever been tweeted. Yeah. And that was in, 24 hours?
Yeah.
It's insane. GTA has such a massive following. I mean, Tom, is how we became friends.
Yep, it is.
I'm really excited. I haven't played GTA 5 properly in a long time. Yeah. I'd like to get back into it with a little bit of GTA 6, probably more casual than I have been in the past. But yeah, I'm really excited. It's one of those franchises that is kind of universally loved. There are always people that have an issue, and we won't go into that, but probably 99% of the gaming community enjoys a bit of GTA.
I mean, think about how well polished Red Dead Redemption 2 was.
Yeah.
And the improvements that they made with that. It's going to be even better, even more.
Yeah, I mean,
and I don't know if you saw the half an hour leaked footage from 2019 from GTA 6 or whatever. We don't know if it was actually legit or real, but they had this kind of Bonnie and Clyde character. So there was a female and a male main character, which, you know what, I wouldn't mind actually. That would be quite cool.
Yeah, I'm open to that. That's a cool idea.
So that was in some leaked footage that went on the internet for half an hour. It had all the dev debug stuff all open, but you could definitely see it was GTA or whatever. It might even be fake, but I just wanted to mention it because it's still out there. It's from, it was from 2019 though, so they've done a lot of work since then.
This is the thing. We can only speculate at the moment.
Yeah. We
have nothing to go on other than a tweet that says, "Oh yeah, we're releasing something in December," and the internet went mad. You're right. It broke the internet because everyone went, "Oh my god, what?"
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful it's going to be GTA 6. If it is, I mean, it should hopefully, fingers crossed, be out by the time of the next podcast, so we'll be able to talk about it then. But yeah, I mean, guys, we've sat here and rambled for 2 hours. Drop something down below. Put something in the comments, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know what you're thinking, what you're excited about. I want to hear what you guys think. I'm buzzing. I'm buzzing. There's so much good stuff that we've talked about today.
Yeah, there definitely is. Obviously, I've talked a lot about Star Citizen. I just wanted to talk about everything that they unveiled because it's all exciting. I know there's a lot of kind of subtle stuff in there, but
mate, you've got me excited again. I'm here for it. I'm going to get back to the game.
Yeah. So yeah, we are going to end it there. This is going to be the longest podcast we've ever done. Over 2 hours. I do apologise for me rambling about Star Citizen, but hey, it's something I wanted to cover today because CitizenCon only happens once a year. So
there was a lot. There was a lot to cover.
There was a lot to cover. So thank you very much for everybody that has listened so far up to this point. Thank you very much. Our next podcast is going to be on the 20th of December. We've decided to do it a week early. In time, especially for Christmas.
Christmas podcast, week. Baby.
Otherwise, it would fall after Christmas, and we're not having that. So, if you enjoyed it, make sure to give us a follow. If you want to give us a rating or review, you can do so on whatever platform podcasting platform of your choice. I lost my words then. You can also stay up to date with the podcast by following our socials if you wish. So, Discord links, both of ours are linked in the description below, as well as all the other socials. So, you can follow Twitter. I'm at Maverick RNG, Joe's FamilarForce, and we also both make content over on Twitch and YouTube. Joe's on Twitch for FamilarForce, I'm on Twitch with Maverick RNG, and it's going to be the same for YouTube, FamilarForce and Maverick RNG. So, until the last podcast of the year, I'll see you in the next one.
On the Fandom's Edge.